Every man has a sane spot somewhere.
I'm going to start with the punchline. The other term for sanity is common sense. Both sanity and common sense have to do with the normal state of mind, the normal way of thinking, the natural recognition of natural law. It's something that should be obvious, but that clear vision has somehow become obscured in the modern world. As we know, common sense is a theme that runs through the writings of G.K. Chesterton like a main artery. So it's not surprising that sanity is also a central theme. We see it in all aspects of his writing. In his essential book, Orthodoxy, he says that orthodoxy, as it is defined in the Apostles' Creed, is the basis for a sane mind and a sane society. His great book of social criticism, his book on distributism, is entitled The Outline of Sanity.
Like all sane men, and most mad ones, I am concerned about social reform.
We see the ongoing theme of sanity and insanity throughout Chesterton's journalism. One of the collections of his essays from the London Daily News is called Lunacy and Letters. His illustrated London News columns continually describe how insane our modern culture has become. We have obsessive standards about the health of the body, but no parallel standard about the health of the mind. Our modern art and literature focuses on insane characters with lots of vivid portrayals of troubled minds. The normal themes of literature should be the normal themes of life, things like the fear of death and the love of a man and woman. These are the things that everybody has to think about, and the only question is when and where is it tactful and edifying to dwell on them. But, says Chesterton, the secrets of a lunatic asylum are secrets in quite another sense. There's no possible reason why anyone should think about them at all unless it is their special scientific business to do that. They do not represent mankind. They are no part of the normal human tragedy, let alone the normal human comedy. They throw no light on our general destiny, as does all great true literature about death or love. It is a mark of the moral muddle in which we find ourselves that there's no distinction between the general sins of men and the perverted sins of madmen.
Sanity may play with insanity, but insanity must not be allowed to play with sanity.
The theme of sanity figures in most of Chesterton's novels, such as The Man Who Was Thursday, The Ball and the Cross, and Man Alive. It figures most prominently in one of his lesser-known collections of mysteries, The Poet and the Lunatics, featuring a detective with a rather unusual technique, Gabriel Gale.
Hello.
Oh, hello. I'm Herbert Saunders.
How do you do, Saunders? I'm Gabriel Gale. You seem to have brought the bad weather with you.
Oh, yes, I suppose I have.
Makes one feel like God.
Thank you for coming, Dr. Garth.
Well, thank you for calling me.
Well, I know that Gabriel Gale is your friend.
Yes, he is a brilliant artist and poet, but he has a strange theory about curing lunatics.
Well, I told you what I saw, and it looks as though he is the one who has gone mad this time.
Yes, it appears his theory is pretty much the blind leading the blind, and it appears that he has fallen into the ditch. If he doesn't go to an asylum, he will go to jail, and that's why I'm in such a hurry to get him certified. God knows I don't want to do it. Gabriel, how are you feeling?
Fine, Dr. Garth. And you?
We're going to see about getting you some rest. I believe you've been under some stress.
Don't be nervous, old man. I know you mean I ought to be in a madhouse, and I know you mean well.
Gabriel, I'm your friend. And you know all your friends would say as I say.
Indeed. Well, if that is the opinion of my friends, perhaps it would be better to get the opinion of my enemies.
Your enemies?
Shall we say of my enemy? Of the man to whom I have done this perfectly outrageous thing? That is all I ask, that before you lock me up for this, you ask Herbert Saunders himself what he thinks of it.
Do you mean you want us to ask him whether he liked being half-throttled and impaled on a pitchfork?
Yes. I want you to ask him whether he liked being half-throttled and impaled on a pitchfork. Send him a telegram right now. Say anything. How do you like being lassoed, or what price pitchforks, or something playful of that sort.
A telegram has arrived from Mr. Saunders.
What does it say?
Can never be sufficiently grateful to Gale for his great kindness, which more than saved my life.
What?
What is going on? What does this mean?
I did say he had a theory about lunacy, but
Well, do you still think I'm mad?
Well, I don't know, but I'm beginning to wonder whether he is.
He isn't. But he jolly nearly was. A very large number of young men very nearly go mad, but nearly all of them only nearly do it, and normally they recover the normal. You might almost say it's normal to have an abnormal period. It comes when there is a lack of adjustment in the scale of things outside and within. Now, in that dangerous time, there is a dreadfully dangerous moment when the first connection is made between the subjective and the objective, the first real bridge between the brain and real things. It all depends what it is, because while it confirms his self-consciousness, it may happen to confirm his self-deceptions. Now, this young man had never really been noticed by anybody until I told him he brought the bad weather. It came just at the moment when his whole sense of proportions and possibilities had gone wild. I saw something in his eyes, a certain megalomania that convinced him he really could control the elements. Now, part of his mind was still sane, telling him not to put his powers to the test. But the rest of him was secretly delighting in easy self-deceptions. And I was suddenly and furiously certain with every cell of my brain that he must stop himself instantly, violently, by learning the limitations of reality. So I tied him to a tree, and I defied him to stop the storm, to stop me. It was an extreme remedy. There's nothing really to be said for it except that it worked. And nothing else might have worked. Anything in the nature of soothing him or quieting him would only have made him yet more secretive, yet more swollen-headed. As for humoring him, why, it's the very worst thing to do for people who are losing their sense of humor. No. No, he was beginning to believe something about himself, and it was still possible to prove that it wasn't true. He had to discover that he wasn't God.
For Gabriel Gale, lunacy is a spell that must be broken. It's a matter of getting the lunatic to snap out of it. He says a lunatic is one who loses his way and cannot return. Gabriel Gale is trying to get the lunatic to return to reality. So it's not a biological or chemical condition, but a mental condition caused by bad thinking. It may even be a bad philosophy that reinforces bad thinking. Is there any basis for Chesterton's idea? Yes, his own life. In the last book he wrote, his autobiography, the title of the chapter on the dark period that he went through in his youth is How to Be a Lunatic. Just as many of his characters sometimes fear that they are going mad, Chesterton once feared that he was going mad, but he snapped out of it. What happened to him is perhaps best described in another line from The Poet and the Lunatics. He could call his story The Man Who Went Sane. Chesterton's outlook on the world is colored by his charity. While he certainly believes in sin and realizes that sin is the problem of the world, he does not attack people for being evil. He does not attack them for being immoral. He says the problem of the modern world is more a mental one than a moral one. Of course people don't behave well, but one of the main problems is that they do not think clearly. There's certainly a connection between virtue and rational thinking, and Chesterton makes it. But his argument is that if we can get people to think clearly, we can change the world. They will start making better decisions. They act badly because they think badly. They no longer recognize the normal, so they can no longer defend the normal. It's not completely their fault that they think badly when the modern philosophies that they've been subjected to are insane. In Orthodoxy, Chesterton argues that every modern philosophy, if taken to its logical conclusion, is insane. And these philosophies also destroy themselves, so they're not only insane, but suicidally insane. His solution to the insanity of the world is the sanity of orthodoxy. But the question might still be asked by some, what is sanity? I think Chesterton reveals 4 necessary aspects of sanity. First, sanity is a balance. There are 2 kinds of balance. One has to do with equilibrium, the other has to do with proportion. You need equilibrium in a balancing act, and sanity, according to Chesterton, is certainly a balancing act.
All sane men can see that sanity is some kind of equilibrium.
Chesterton invokes the idea of balance in one of his best definitions of a sane man. He's a man who can have tragedy in his heart and comedy in his head. And then there's the idea of proportion.
Sanity does not consist in seeing things. After all, madmen see things more clearly than other people. Sanity consists in seeing the big things big, and the small things small.
Secondly, sanity is liberty. The madman does not break out, he breaks in. Chesterton talks about the maniac who puts himself in the clean, well-lit prison of one idea. Madness, he says, is not an anarchy. Madness is a bondage. It's a contraction. It is a narrowness. The determinist is not free. Sanity is free. But it maintains its liberty by obeying the rules, operating within limits, within definitions. Freedom does not mean doing anything. It means doing something. To try to do everything is to end up doing nothing. In one of the stories in The Poet and the Lunatics, a character who is a writer goes mad. That's not hard to imagine. But he goes mad staring at a blank sheet of paper, not because he could write nothing, but because he could write anything. But he's unwilling, unable to limit himself.
Unlimited liberty is itself a limit. It is like the circle which is at once an eternity and a prison.
Thirdly, sanity is humble. Megalomaniacs are not sane. When someone thinks he is God, he needs to be cured of that delusion. We saw how Gabriel Gale freed a character from megalomania simply by humbling him. But all lunacy is a form of self-centeredness and self-obsession when whatever one's morbid problem, whatever it is, becomes more important than anything else. It is a collapsing into oneself. Chesterton even points out that knowing the names of all the new manias do not clear the mind, but rather cloud it. In some cases, a person wants to be known for his problem rather than solving the problem, because the problem draws attention and the problem has a name. But being humble does not mean being afraid of claiming to be right. Chesterton says every sane man should believe he is right. If you think you are wrong about everything, that's not being humble, that's being dysfunctional. Chesterton was certainly humble, but he was also certainly convinced that he had the truth. And fourthly, sanity is happy. It is joyful.
In anything that covers the whole of your life, in your philosophy and your religion, you must have mirth. If you do not have mirth, you will certainly have madness. Sanity is always careless. Madness is always careful. Sanity and laughter, when they are lost for a time, are hard things to recover.
Sanity means being able to see the world as it really is, created by God, but tainted by sin. So sanity means believing in God, but also believing in evil, and believing that evil must be fought. In The Poet and the Lunatics, Gabriel Gale says that the people who sing more songs and dance more dances are the ones who believe in evil. They see life as the battlefield that it is. They at least read things in black and white. But the people who are unhappy don't believe in evil, and they think it philosophical to see everything in the same light of gray. The point is, it is healthy for the mind to believe in evil because you can also believe in good. What is the definition of sanity? A renowned psychologist was once asked to define sanity. His answer? Read Chesterton. I'm Dale Ahlquist. Please join us again on the Apostle of Common Sense, and please support the American Chesterton Society. That would be the sane thing to do.